The three-toed sloth comes down out of its tree exactly once a week, and that's when it gets killed. Jaguars, ocelots, harpy eagles, they all know the schedule. The sloth descends, does its business, makes a long climb back up. The whole round trip takes about 8 hours. That one weekly bathroom break may be the most dangerous thing this animal does, and it has no choice. Up in the canopy, it's almost untouchable. The fur grows backwards compared to most animals. Instead of starting at the back and hanging down over the belly, it starts at the belly and hangs over the back, which makes sense when you spend your whole life hanging upside down. Rain runs right off of it. And that fur is doing more than keeping it dry. There are beetles in there, algae, and moths running a complete life cycle without ever leaving the sloth. The moths live in the fur, and when the sloth comes down to poop, the moths fly out and lay their eggs in the feces. The larvae hatch, feed, become moths, and fly back up to rejoin the fur community. Meanwhile, moth waste feeds the algae growing in the fur, and the sloth eats that algae right off itself. That greenish tint you see in the photos, that's the algae. It also acts as camouflage. The whole system runs because the sloth is slow enough that things can actually grow on it undisturbed. Their grip is something else. It takes 2 to 4 researchers just to pry a sloth loose from a branch. Sloths have been documented dying while holding on and staying suspended in the tree after death. You can pull the skin off before you break the grip. It's wild that their muscle mass is actually lower than most animals. Most mammals run 30 to 40% muscle to body weight. The three-toed sloth is closer to 25%, but almost all of that muscle mass is concentrated in the forearms and the grip. It traded everything else for its ability to hold onto the trees. The anatomy gets stranger the more you look at it. Most mammals have exactly 7 vertebrae in their neck. Giraffes have 7, humans have 7. The three-toed sloth appears to have 8 to 10. And what happened is that some of the rib bones migrated up into the neck over time, filling in and functioning as neck bones. The sloth and the manatee are the only 2 mammals to have pulled this off. Their slow metabolism means they only breed about once every other year, and they only have 1 baby when they do. So if you lose one of these animals, you've done real damage to the population because there's no quick recovery. There's a pygmy version of the three-toed sloth that lives on a single island off the coast of Panama called the Isla Escura de Veraguas. Nobody has an accurate count of how many individuals live on that island. Estimates run somewhere between 100 and 3,000. And the reason for that range is that scientists can't get an accurate count without disturbing the habitat they're trying to protect. What they can measure is habitat loss. Roads cut through the canopy, power lines cut through the canopy, farms cut through the canopy, and suddenly these animals are on the ground trying to cross. They're getting electrocuted on power lines trying to get from one tree to another. They're getting hit by cars, and feral dogs are a problem. The three-toed sloths are in the most trouble of all the sloth species. Their closest living relatives are armadillos and anteaters. I would not have put those 3 in the same family, but yeah, there it is.